Hey everyone, welcome back. This week we're doing a battle of 4 hype beasts. Stay tuned. Alright, I figured since I've got the clones, might as well get some samples of the original. I've smelled the originals when I've gone to Nordstrom and things like that, but I wanted to do a side-by-side on camera. I figured that was a good thing to do. I've also done the same thing for the Aventus clones that have come out recently, like Press Show. I think that's supposed to be a clone. Anyway, so I'm going to do the same thing for Haltane and Oud for Greatness, because I've got Oud for Glory and Detour Echo. So I'm going to start off though, figure let's do a comparison of Haltane and Oud for Greatness. Yeah, Oud for Greatness. So I'm going to spray my samples of those. In my right hand, I'm going to have Haltane. This hand will have Haltane, and in the left will be Oud for Greatness. All right, so let's do a healthy spray there. I'll say too, while I'm spraying this, my feelings in general about this DNA. I think this is a perfectly competent men's fragrance. It is not my favorite DNA in the world. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. It just isn't super interesting to me. But I still think it's like good. It's just, there's nothing that grabs me about it. It kind of smells like a man, but it smells like a man I've smelled a million times before. So, okay, Haltane, Oud for Greatness. Okay, so there are distinctions. I know people like to say that these are like cloning one another or they're the same thing. I would say there are some differences. So for me, Haltane, I think Haltane comes across a little bit better in my opinion. I think Oud for Greatness kind of has this Western interpretation of Oud, which to me tends to come across a little rubbery, even maybe a little rubber hosey. I'm picking that up a lot more in Oud for Greatness than I am in the Haltane. Haltane, to me, I'm picking up more of the spices. There's actually a little bit of sweetness in there, but I'm not getting so much from Oud for Greatness. And I think actually the clary sage is coming through actually a lot stronger in this than in Oud for Greatness. I don't really pick up a lot of sage in that, but I actually do get quite a bit of sage from this. Actually, the more I smell this in comparison, the more I'm liking Haltane. So, okay, that is the comparison of those two. I like clearly they're doing something similar, but I don't think that it would be fair to say that they are clones necessarily of one another. I think they're different enough, honestly. I mean, it's just really interesting. The difference with Oud for Greatness, it's not as good. The Parfums de Marley is better. I think the Parfums de Marley smells like a more well-rounded, complete fragrance. You still have the woody elements, but it doesn't have that kind of rubber hosey thing. And with Oud for Greatness, that's kind of most of what I get. Which, spoiler, I think Initio, or I think the Lattafa does a good job of cloning that aspect. So let's get into it. I'm gonna, since I've kind of decided these are a little bit different, I'm gonna go one by one and then we'll talk about all 4 of them. So let's start off with the clone of Initio. So now I have Oud for Greatness in my right hand. I've got Oud for Glory here, and I will spray that. Oud for Greatness, Oud for Glory, Lattafa, Initio. So I'm just gonna actually do that. I'll say Lattafa and Initio. Those are quite a bit different, actually. I know I sprayed this one like a couple minutes ago, but okay. Once the perfume or alcohol kind of goes away. So these two are very close, as you've probably heard. They are very, very similar. I think Lattafa really lays into that sort of rubber hosey sort of aspect. It's pretty dominant. The other thing I would say is I feel like the nutmeg comes through a little bit stronger with the Lattafa. Like I can distinctly smell nutmeg. Whereas in the Initio, I feel like there's more of a balance. I kind of get a spiciness, but I can't actually pull out the nutmeg on its own. So I will say when I compare the two of these side by side, there is a noticeable difference in, I would say, the blend. There's a lot of similar notes, but the Lattafa kind of feels like things are stacked on top of each other. And the Initio feels like it's got more of a blend. It's funny, kind of side by side now with these, the Initio is raising in my estimation. And I will say the more I smell it, the less I like the Lattafa, which it was never one of my favorites anyway. I kind of find it to be a little obnoxious. I don't feel that way about Oud for Glory, or Oud for Greatness, sorry, about Initio. This now, by comparison, is seeming a little bit more interesting, but it takes that comparison of like, okay, now that I'm smelling a clone, which I thought was doing a pretty good job, but when you actually get it side by side, there are enough distinctions, like they both colored the same picture, but Lattafa is not as clean. They're going outside the lines. It's just a little bit rougher. Okay, let's check out the other two. Parfums de Marley is in this hand, and this is going to be Haramain. And to protect the sample again, give this one a second to dry off. In fact, because this has been a minute, I will give another spritz here. So comparing Parfums de Marley and Haramain. Okay. Some key distinctions here, though I will say it's a lot closer. It's very, very close. Okay, so again, the sage is standing out for me more. The clary sage is standing out for me more in this. I can actually pick it out. Partially because I actually really like clary sage as a note. It's one of my favorites, so I'm kind of latching onto it a little bit here. I don't get it as much with the Haramain. I will say they're very close, like 80 to 90%, but there is a little bit of a sweetness and a little bit of a richness that the Haramain does not have. It's subtle, and you'd have to probably be doing this to really pick it out, because they're very, very similar. But it does give the Parfums de Marley the edge. So this is interesting. I didn't actually know how this was going to turn out. Okay, so from this side, so I've got Parfums de Marley, Haramain, and then the same order here, Initio, and then Oud for Glory on the far end. Yeah, that's correct. It's funny, now I can actually tell, I can pick the four of them out. I feel like they are actually distinct enough. I kind of was worried that this was going to be four of the things they all smell exactly the same, but they actually all have their own distinct thing. So I am going to say the Parfums de Marley is the best one. I actually think I would wear this more. I'm almost to the end of my sample, so I've only worn it a couple of times. But I find this to be very interesting. And kind of similarly, I have found the Detour Echo to be the most likely to engage me with the DNA of the two clones that I have. Oud for Greatness, like I said, I think it smells more balanced. There's more cohesiveness to the notes that are going on in it. And Lattafa does a decent job of evoking those notes, but I will say, it kind of leans a little bit rubber hosey, more so than Initio, which now that I'm like kind of doing a side by side, that is a little bit more dialed down. I think I was latching onto it a little bit with my nose when I was first doing the comparison of the two, but side by side, it's a little unfair because I think that's something that the Lattafa really leans into, is that kind of rubber hose aspect. It's much more of just a cast member in the Initio. And then on the other side, you've got these two, which honestly, they are quite a bit different to me. Like there's a soapiness to the Haltane and Detour Echo that I'm not really getting from these two. So yeah, maybe they're supposed to be like sister fragrances, but the DNA does feel distinct enough that I don't think I would actually say if you like Haltane, you'll like Oud for Greatness. If you like Detour Echo, you'll like Oud for Glory. I just don't think that there's, I don't think the stars of the show are similar enough. So if I was going to rank them, probably not a surprise. PDM is number 1, Eco is number 2, Oud for Greatness is number 3, and Oud for Glory is number 4. But apart from ranking them, I think the only two that I actually have much interest in wearing are these two. I think the Parfums de Marley, the Haltane DNA is the best version of this. I think Detour Echo is kind of like diet Haltane. It has more of the green soapiness, less of the sweetness, a little less smokiness, and a little less clary sage. It does a noble job. I think it still does a good job, but it does feel thin by comparison. There's a richness to the Parfums de Marley. So, yeah, I think that's pretty interesting. This was actually, these were more distinct and different than I expected them to be, honestly. I kind of thought that they were all gonna run together. Let's kind of see what happens when you run them all together. Let's see. Yeah, it goes from Haltane to Rubber Hose. Okay, so I'm gonna do this. I'm just gonna take these. I don't know if there's any way for me to mix them up. And there's no way for me to verify if I'm correct, but I will know if I'm correct. So I'll mix these up. I don't know which is which. Detour Echo. Oud for Greatness. Oud for Glory. And then, yeah, so that's Haltane. Yeah. Wait a minute. No, that says something. No, I got those backwards. Okay. But when I smell them side by side, I can tell them apart. I guess that says something. Because when I wasn't quite sure. I just kind of instinctively went with Oud for Greatness. No, but it's clear. I got that backwards. Interesting. Okay, so maybe they're more alike than I feel like, but when I'm smelling them side by side, they don't feel that much alike. But in my own little unofficial test that I just did, I failed. So I don't know what to say about that, because yeah, you smell them side by side. I know I got these two right. Interesting. Well, maybe there's more similarities than I thought. I don't know. What do you guys think? Is this what do you guys think about these fragrances? I feel like these get a lot of hype, but I feel like they get a lot of hype because Oud for Glory is so strong and it lasts forever, but I don't know if it's actually warranted. Every time I've smelled it, I'm like, that's an interesting rubber hose. I don't know. Detour Echo is way more interesting to me. I think it's low on the list, but I do like Haltane. After doing this little comparison, it has given me an appreciation. And actually, I do find these types of exercises can help me to come around on fragrances that maybe I've been middling on before, because you have that contrast. It's kind of like the way that my brother got me to like beer when I turned 21 was he had me eat or drink it with pizza while eating pizza. So the contrast of the sweetness of the pizza and the crust and the sauce with the bitterness of the beer, it gave me an opportunity to kind of appreciate the flavor of the beer a little bit more in detail. And I feel like there's something similar here when you're doing these side-by-side comparisons and you're getting into the nitty-gritty, picking out individual things like that. It can kind of help you kind of wrap your nose around what you're smelling. And that usually for me is a big point or a big step in coming to like something. So hey, cool exercise. Give me some more ideas for other like this. I'm totally down to buy samples and things like that, or better yet, you guys send me samples. That would make my life a lot easier. So if there's something you want me to compare, drop a comment down below, let me know. I'll probably pick up some more stuff in the future to do some more exercises like this. I thought this was fun. So thank you very much, and I will talk to you next week. Bye.